Tesla has been one of the biggest electric car manufacturer in the world. If you invested in Tesla in 2010K, you would have 1.7 million today.
Massively overvalued. It doesn't matter what profits they show, you'll find that car companies don't truly make any money. And Tesla really, if they've been the pioneer behind electric cars, why are they so far behind when it comes to autonomous driving?
You do wonder whether Musk's involvement in politics and very close to President Trump, what potential deals are being done there that might profit him or Tesla in the future.
We can add enough value to help you in your research decision. Welcome to the latest episode of the Intelligent Wealth Podcast. As usual, I have my eminent guests here, Awet Gourmet, Head of Research for Minerva Money Management, and Carl Roberts, my fellow director shareholder in the company. This show is designed for serious investors who want to get insights into the long-term investing in quality companies. So without any further ado, let's get into the topic of today, which is Tesla. Now, I'm a Tesla owner. I've driven Teslas for 8 years now. So I can give some very good insights into the practical usage of the car. But what we're concerned about today is the actual business, the shares, which is completely different to discussion about the actual car itself, although I hope that some things I'd say will add some insights, particularly to today. Now, Tesla's been around quite a long time, probably 20 years or so. I remember first seeing a Tesla at a money show, Master Investor, many years ago, and I'd never heard of it, and it did look fabulous. And I must say, my experience of driving Teslas is just out of this world. I just feel that when I'm driving a Tesla, it feels like I'm driving a very calm, quiet spaceship. It's funny that no one ever questions me on this. I think they assume I've ridden a spaceship before, and of course I haven't. But it is a pretty unique experience. It is absolutely phenomenal car to drive, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a great business to invest in. That's for us to discuss, and hopefully we'll add a lot of value here today. Over to the team. So, Carl, what's your view about Tesla?
Tesla is one of those very interesting companies that can really divide people's opinions when it comes to investing. Because on the one hand, there's a way you can look at Tesla and value it on very traditional metrics, look at its kind of core business, the sort of profitable part of the business, which is effectively producing cars. It's a car manufacturer. On the other hand, you could look at all the other stuff it does, which includes things like energy generation and storage, the services part of the company, which includes kind of maintenance of the vehicles, insurance, secondhand sales of Teslas. And then on the back of that, you've also got this innovation into AI and robotics. On the one hand, you could look at the company as what it's doing today and the kind of profitable parts of the business. But then you've also got this huge potential with Tesla that it's got its fingers in a lot of different areas, which makes it incredibly hard to value to a degree. And it depends on where you sit on the fence as to how you want to look at Tesla.
Yeah. In many ways, it feels like it's being valued like a technology company rather than a traditional car manufacturing company. I find that car manufacturing is not a great business sector. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what profits they show. As we've discussed in the show previously, profits doesn't mean cash flow. And I think you'll find that car companies don't truly make any money, not truly in terms of cash flow and wealth generation. But let's hand it over to our technical guru here, our head of research, Awet. I'm sure he's got loads of figures to throw back at us and put us on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, as you say, Tony, the car manufacturing has been very competitive in the last 100 years. So it's been very difficult for most companies to break into and to become profitable and dominant. But Tesla has been outlier. I think they came with a niche market and suddenly they dominate. I mean, they became one of the biggest electric car manufacturer in the world. And this is because they have a visionary founder, and he's bold and creative and imaginative. He changed pretty much the car industry. It pretty much revolutionized it. So if you invested in Tesla in 2010, which is 10K, you would have 1.7 million today. That's 41% compounded annual growth rate. So Tesla has been a great wealth generator for investors in the last 15 years. So we can't deny that. But what we see recently is we can see Elon Musk, which is the main driver, the founder, is diverting a little bit into politics. I think there's a lot of argument. He's damaging the brand and so on. We don't know exactly how that's going to end. But when we look at the recent earning report, you can see pretty much, sales are down 9% and earning down 21%. And you can see, apart from the energy, everything was down, margin was contracting. And so Tesla market share is in decline, but doesn't mean that's going to be the future. But for now, we see a market is shrinking, and the Chinese companies like BYD are coming and taking a market share, especially in China, from Tesla.
Yeah, I think, Albert, you were telling me the other day that BYD has now overtaken Tesla in terms of electric car sales. And this latest innovation of theirs, of being able to charge up a car in 5 minutes, is quite remarkable, because my Tesla, even when I go to a supercharger, a service station, which is the fast chargers, it can take anything up to an hour to charge up my car. If it's
Right.
like empty, if it's down to 0 miles, it takes maybe an hour. If it's maybe half charged up, it might take half an hour, for example. But when I charge up overnight at my house, it can take up to 14 hours. So to be able to do that in 5 minutes is quite remarkable. And Tesla, really, if they've been the pioneer behind electric cars, why are they so far behind with charging? And also, why is it that other companies like Waymo seem to be ahead when it comes to autonomous driving? And I've had this autonomous driving facility with my Tesla for 8 years. I still can't drive it without my hands on the steering wheel, which is what Musk advises you to do. And you think, well, hang on a minute. My son went to Los Angeles a year ago, and he sent me a video of the driverless taxi he was in. So it seems that Tesla seems to be lagging in some ways. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I think partly you do wonder whether Musk's involvement in politics and at the level he is at, with being very close to President Trump, you do sort of wonder what potential deals are being done there. I mean, he doesn't need to go into government for the money, does he? So,
No.
what's his kind of game there? Is he just truly that passionate about America that he wants to kind of try and make it more efficient, or is there deals being done that might profit him or Tesla and some of his other companies in the future? Who knows? But I think it's worth spending a bit of time on Musk and mentioning that, because I think that is quite a unique selling point for a business, isn't it? If you look at the top companies today, and we've mentioned it a number of times on the podcast, having that visionary founder is quite a key to having a great company. And if you look back at Musk's history, whether you like the guy or not, you cannot deny his success. I mean, this is a guy that's probably tops all others in terms of success of companies he's founded. Going through the list earlier, it was just incredible, really, when you think back to even some of his early companies. He co-founded Zip2 at 24, which he sold for 307 million. That's at age 24. He then went on to PayPal, which you could argue was the first form of sort of digital money, really. I mean, we've moved on to kind of Bitcoin and crypto now, but PayPal back in the day was very unique, being able to send money without kind of banks and things. I sold that to eBay. Then he's gone on to obviously Tesla. He's gone into space with SpaceX. And you could argue, where would SpaceX exploration be today if it weren't for SpaceX? They've actually managed to land reusable rockets now. So are constantly handing out contracts to SpaceX now to do all their kind of space work. So you could argue he's cracked space to a degree. Solar City, he's kind of merged into Tesla now. He's also got some other smaller companies that he's working on, that Neuralink, which is that brain computer interface. The Boring Company, where he's building urban tunnels through cities to kind of help speed up traffic and things. And then obviously Twitter, which is now branded into X, which is now put into X AI as well. So it's just incredible, the list of companies. But every time he seems to hit the jackpot, doesn't he? He seems to be successful, and then he kind of moves on to something else. So to one degree, I kind of feel like he did crack electric cars before anyone else. You can't deny that. It's just obviously everyone's caught up now. And you do wonder, was it now the time he's going to move on to the next thing and sort of crack that? So, this is a guy that's just always at the front of innovation and seems to get it right first time before anyone else.
Yeah, I think
True.
It could be he's a great inventor and he's quite visionary as well. But the one thing as well, he's running so many businesses. Now his involvement in politics, I'm not sure how will that benefit Tesla because I mean, overall, we only have a limited time to do a few things. And when you are a CEO, which is the company's leader, and you're diverted into so many things, which is again in politics again now within running few businesses. I think that's probably why Tesla share prices and earning, I mean, latest earning is on a downfall. So I think he need to focus on get into the business and focusing on changing, I mean, Tesla vision.
I don't necessarily agree with that because I know that there's this conventional wisdom that you should all focus on one thing. But if you look at geniuses in history, they were always multidisciplinary, and you could be a
Yeah.
genius in engineering and also be a great artist, for example. It's modern thinking. You've got to specialize. But actually, if you're very bright, you can be more intelligent, having wide knowledge across a range of subjects. Charlie Munger was a classic example of
Yeah.
that. It takes an
Yeah.
exceptional person to be able to do it,
Yeah.
but you do learn more and become more skilled by having skills in completely different areas. So that's my take on it. The problem I have with electric cars, although I love my Tesla, the problem I have is it's not really a green car, not on any level. With the rare earth minerals they need to use in building the car, and that is only contributed by taking advantage of third world countries, slave labor, child labor. There's a finite supply of these products that they use in the
That's it.
car.
Yeah.
It's going to run out one day. It's on any level, the way you measure it, you cannot call it a green car. And also, I cannot see how it can possibly be the future, electric cars. I think the future for cars, first of all, cars could be run for free with no energy cost. We know that. Many inventors over the years have created free energy. In fact, I watched a video yesterday of an African guy who's created a car that can run without fuel. He's using sound waves, I think it is, to move this car. In the past, we've had hydrogen, or water. I mean, Tesla, the original Tesla scientist, created a car that drove across the whole of East to West America, 3,000 miles on a tank full of water. So what is that other than hydrogen? So you could have free energy, but the trouble is, whenever an inventor creates free energy, that person mysteriously disappears. So you do wonder why they accidentally disappear every time they create free energy. We even had free energy back in the days of the pyramids, thousands of years ago. It's felt now these are energy centers, the pyramids. So I'm not convinced electric cars are the future. And to me, that's the biggest risk of Tesla. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think going back to what I said earlier, it's if you want a speculative sort of bet on the future, then you might look at Tesla that way and think, okay, let's ignore the cars to a degree and focus on all the other kind of innovation it's doing into robotics, into AI, and maybe based on Musk's track record of success, he may be the winner in that kind of avenue, and Tesla will reap the rewards of that. On the other hand, if you're a quality investor and you're looking for quality companies and you're focusing on fundamentals, then it's incredibly hard to look at Tesla and say it's good value at the moment because effectively it's just priced for perfection, isn't it? I think, Awit, you've probably got the figures in terms of
Yeah.
cash, price to earnings and things like that.
Yeah, Awit, tell us about some of the financial metrics that show that, in our experience, Tesla, on any traditional measure, is massively overvalued. What figures have you got to demonstrate that?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, the first one we look is visionary founder, which Tesla ticks the box for us. And he still has significant skin in the game, which is 13% in the company. That's valued 171 billion. So if you consider Tesla makes 50% of Elon Musk net worth. So that's significant skin in the game Elon Musk has in Tesla. So he is inclined to do the right thing, even though there was a controversy about his 56 billion pay package, right? It was approved eventually, but that was a big one. When you look at the return on capital in the last 5 years, average around 18%. But when we look at the current rate, which is to see how he's performing, is 8.7%. So there's a downward pressure on return on capital. And return on equity, again, we see the same pattern here from 22% of 5 years average return on equity to the current one is 7.6%. So there's a downward pressure on our capital here.
What about valuation metrics? How is it valued in terms of PE ratio and price to free cash flow? It must be massively overvalued on those measures.
Yeah, in terms of the valuation, Tesla is priced PE 136 times earning. To put that into yeah, to put that into perspective, it will take Tesla investors are paying 136 years of earning without adjusting for inflation. That's how expensive it is. And when we look at our favorite measurement, which is free cash flow, price to free cash flow, 120 times earning.
Wow.
And I try to discount it using our metric, which is discounted cash flow. And investors are implying Tesla will grow at 37% in the future. But when we saw the recent earning, Tesla revenue declined by 9% and earning decline, EPS declined by 21%. So you can see there's a rich valuation in Tesla. But there's the reason I think Tesla, the way Carl, as you mentioned earlier, you cannot value Tesla as a normal car because there's a lot of uncertainty and unknowable trend within Tesla in terms of autonomous cars. I think investors are betting on autonomous cars. Tesla will change the car industry and will generate trillions of dollars from autonomous driving cars. And most investors believe Tesla has superior data than Waymo,
Waymo.
Google, Waymo. Yeah. So investors betting Tesla has internal data collection is being collecting for years that will advance Tesla to become a leader in autonomous driving. Because as we've seen recently, most companies are dropping from the autonomous driving where Tesla is leading and one more is behind Tesla as well. So that's one advantage investors are betting on autonomous cars. And the second one is human robots. I think we can see in the West, there's an aging population. They are planning to create around 1 million robots in the next few years. So that will tackle a lot of tasks that we don't like to do, like the aging population, repetitive tasks, and so on. So investors are actually not looking current what we see in Tesla. They're looking beyond what we see.
I think that's pure speculation, and I would contend that it's not true what you say about autonomous driving. They're not ahead with autonomous driving. Waymo have got driverless taxis in America, which they've had for at least 12 months. I think they're ahead. I think they're ahead, and Tesla's behind with the charging. And also there's something else that you need to be aware of. You don't really get this unless you're a Tesla driver. The actual quality of the manufacturing of Teslas, I think, is very poor. I should know. I've driven 2 Teslas over the last 8 years. My wife's driven 2. It's very poor, and I think the servicing standards are going down. At the end of the day, they're having to keep cutting the prices of these cars to compete in the mass market, and it's all very well pioneering electric cars, pioneering robots, but there's gonna be a huge amount of competition. And what's the one thing we don't like when we're investing in a company as a team? We don't like competition. There'll be massive competition. So although it's a great car to drive, I haven't driven another electric car, so it's hard to judge. And I'll never underestimate that. It's a fabulous drive and incredibly fast as well. Considering it's only a saloon car, I'll drive a Model S, but the quality of manufacture is not brilliant. It really isn't. And I think that's an indictment, I think.
Yeah, I think what Tesla tried to revolutionize is if you look at the car industry, they had over hundreds of supply chain, which is quite vulnerable to any disruption. But Tesla, they tried to get that together into like gigafactory to try to narrow the supply chain.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
with that, you can't get it perfect now, but in
Yeah.
the future, you can optimize it and get it right. And we have to remember, Tesla is a new car company, it hasn't been around for long. So they have a lot of things to improve. And we've seen Elon Musk is a visionary, and I'm sure he will make the change over time.
Yeah, I think you said it earlier, Tony, that the market is valuing Tesla as a technology company, not a car
Yes.
company. That's the
Yeah.
reason why it's part of this Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven are all technology companies, and
Mm,
Tesla is one of them. So that's the
mm,
way the market's valuing them. We've seen these types of multiples before with the likes of Amazon, Apple,
yeah.
Google, or Alphabet. So that's what the market's. That's why that's how the market is valuing them. So it's up to you as an investor as to whether you want to look at it that way, or whether you focus on the car side, which is its only real profitable part of the business. And if you're focusing on the car side, then it kind of fails a lot of the kind of metrics.
But
Right.
I do think it has this wonderful attraction to investors, much like Apple does. It creates this kind of what Howitt describes as a cult following. You
Yeah.
do have a tremendous fan base that
Yeah.
follows it, regardless of whether the figures make any sense or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a valuable. There's a brand loyalty, and brand is intangible asset, but is very invaluable because when you have people who are a big fan of Elon Musk, and he actually demonstrated he is a leader. He could do change. So many industry, as Carl, you mentioned, in the space exploration, he changes so many things. So people love the brand Tesla, and they think everything Tesla touch will change into gold. I was listening to Nvidia's CEO, I think he was not long ago. He actually said a good point. He said physical AI, which is human robots, would become 50 trillion. It would create a 50 trillion market in the next few years. Right. And investors implying Tesla is actually working on this and implying it will become 10 trillion market. Looking at this current valuation, yes, Tesla is expensive. But again, looking at future, which is speculative, but you have to still assume based on what we are, can go to the future. I think current valuation is expensive, depend how you look at it, depend on you looking at like what we can see now. But investors are looking beyond today. They're looking for 10 years from now. If I mean, we can see that in Japan and Italy and so on, there's an aging population, and we need a solution for that. We need robots to come and help the population. And if there's a problem, there would be a solution, and that's how a lot of companies would generate profit from it.
You see, it's all very well having more products and more sales, but that's not profit. I would argue that many of Musk's companies, whilst he's been successful, aren't profitable. And in fact, Tesla wasn't profitable for about the first 15, 17 years of its existence. He only started making money when they started getting carbon credits. So, turnover for vanity, profit for sanity, cash for reality. We strongly as a team love cash flow, true cash flow generating companies. And it doesn't matter how sexy it is and how wonderful Musk is to many people. At the end of the day, the bottom line is cash flow. And if you were to just throw something completely unrelated into here, if you were to ask me which company would I invest in for great cash flow and probable future increases in cash flow and increase in share price that makes sense, it would be Berkshire Hathaway. This is a company that makes far more money than Tesla does, far more money, and yet it's way undervalued because it's not sexy. So that's the kind of company I'd rather invest in if you ask my personal view. Now, I think Tesla, I would put it in the bracket of speculative investment where it's money you can afford to lose, along with Bitcoin, that kind of thing. So you might put a small amount in and you may speculatively make a lot of money because it's so popular, but not because it's a great business that's very profitable. You can't base it just on pure speculation of what could happen. And even if robotics becomes a big market, so what? Everyone's going to be doing it. Every manufacturer is going to be manufacturing robots. What makes Tesla particularly special? You know, I think the Chinese will wipe up the robotics market. They're just so much smarter, in my experience. Looking at their technology, when you look at any videos of their bridge building in the mountainous areas of China, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's for anyone in the West to argue that Chinese are behind us with technology. They've got no idea. They've got no idea. The Chinese have just created a factory which is 100% run by robots that produces a mobile phone every second. Every second. There's not a single human being working in that factory, and there's no lights on. They don't need lights. The only humans they employ are for servicing and maintenance. That's the only humans. This is the scale of technology in China. I personally think they're way ahead of us. And I think we're being patronizing, keep criticizing them, saying, oh, they can't catch up with us with microchips, etc. Not on the evidence of my eyes. And I've visited China more than once. I just think they're extraordinary and very underrated in the West. That's my view anyway, based on personal experience and insights.
I think you're spot on, Tony, in terms of like China manufacture more than like Europe and US and Japan combined. So they are
Yeah.
ahead of, I think that's why you can see the trade war. We are consuming everything you buy is made in China now. And
Yes,
that's, I think,
precisely.
for Western countries, they realizing, well, that's not sustainable in the long run. We have to do something now to solve this problem. And that's why you see tariff and so on. The trade war is going on, and even technology war we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. So, any other insights?
No, I think to summarize, I think we've covered it pretty well. It's two ways to look at it. If you think it's a technology company, it's a speculative investment. If you think it's a car manufacturer, then on those metrics it looks way overvalued compared to everything else. So yeah, it depends on which side of the fence you sit.
Final comments from you, Owet?
Yeah, I mean, as we said, like early on, like if when you look at the margin for a Tesla, is actually quite small in terms of like Buffett, he wouldn't invest in companies like Tesla because the margin is very small. Gross margin, for example, Tesla is 18%, and operating margin is 7.3%. That's actually not a very profitable business. But as you said, now maybe I think what we could cover few maybe risks. We haven't covered the risk and so on.
Yeah, I thought I did cover some of the risks, like the threat to electric cars overall. I don't think electric cars are the future at all. I just don't think it's humanly possible, physically possible to carry on with electric cars. They're terrible for the environment. They create more pollution because of the particulates from the tires because they're heavier cars. So it's a lie that they reduce pollution. They don't. They increase it. These rare earth minerals, like lithium, etc., are going to run out. It's perfectly impossible to carry on with electric cars long term. You can't recycle them. They're really bad for the earth. They're poisonous if you try to bury them. So there's so many disadvantages. I just cannot see that they're the future at all. And that overall is the biggest risk for me, for Tesla. If you think about the overall view, that's my view. You may disagree, the two of you.
Even just the competition, like everyone's joined that market
Massive
now.
competition.
So you're waiting for the next innovation in car manufacturing, aren't you? Because electric vehicles, everyone's doing it. Tesla have lost their edge in that. And that.
Personally, I think what they should be doing is creating different companies. They shouldn't be trying to do 5 or 6 different things in one company. Is it a solar panels company? Is it an AI company? Is it robotics? Is it cars? You don't need to have such a hodgepodge. You need 5 or 6 separate companies, in my view, because it's probably worth more if you to separate them. If you were to what do you call it? Demerge them. That often the case.
Yeah.
And what we've done is to help listeners to get a summary, if you like. We have created this one-page company snapshot, which you can gather from us if you contact us. We're going to put links in the show notes as usual. Carl's written a very interesting blog on Tesla recently, which you can pick up from our website, Minerva Money Management. We would ask you if you'd liked our discussion today, and it was quite lively and quite useful, I think, then why not leave a review for our podcast on Apple Podcasts, as this helps us go up the rankings and allows us to attract more quality guests. So obviously, these are just our opinions. Don't take this as advice. It's not intended as advice because you've got to do your own research. In my experience, when you follow tips, share tips, invariably it goes wrong because the person giving the tips has got a completely different investment personality to you and different timescales and different agenda, etc. So it's very difficult to duplicate somebody else. You must do your own research. But what we're going to do in this show is help you decide whether we can add enough value to help you in your research decision. I don't know about the two of you, but I loved the show today. I thought it was really interesting, very interesting insights as usual. And we wish you investors all the luck in your investing journey. Looking forward to the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. Please help us spread the word by sharing this podcast with your family and friends. And don't forget to subscribe.